Now, Paul, I'd like to jump into a just very common but also complex question we get very often as what is a cash balance plan exactly? So, could you just give a little bit more details about a cash balance plan and, the differences between that and a traditional defined benefit plan?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk a little bit about, about kind of the differences between that and a traditional DB, and also the differences between a cash balance plan or a defined benefit plan structure and a defined contribution. I think it's probably best to start there because a lot of clients don't understand. They're very used to kind of a 401k or a SEP, sort of a defined contribution plan, and they don't understand the mechanics of a defined benefit plan. So, two broad categories of plans: defined benefit plan, defined contribution plan. Defined benefit plan is our cash balance plan is a type of defined benefit plan. We often use those words interchangeably. And the most popular type of defined contribution plan is a 401k. But specifically, defined contribution is a plan in that the contribution is defined and typically indexed annually by the IRS. And so the IRS is going to come out with these maximum amounts. And assuming you meet the qualifications, you can put those amounts in. It doesn't matter if the account balance goes up or down because the limits are set annually. Okay. So, for example, with a 401k, you can put in roughly 70 grand a year, depending on eligibility and age. Once you put that money in, doesn't matter if the account balance goes up or down, you have the ability to put those amounts in each and every year. Rather simple, straightforward to administer. Now, when it comes to a cash balance plan, which again is a type of defined benefit plan, these plans define a benefit at retirement, and that benefit can be as high as roughly $3.5 million. It's going to go up $100,000 or so each year. Because that amount is so large, you can make much larger contributions as you work towards that goal. So someone in their 60s can often get, a few $100,000 a year in. 50s, you can often get a couple hundred grand, and then, 40s, 100, 150. And again, it just really depends on, a variety of other things like age and income. But the moral of the story is, the defined benefit plan structure is a permanent plan design, allows you to get large contributions in that can ultimately be as high as $3.5 million. And they have to be signed off and certified each year by an actuary. Okay. So very good plans, very robust, allow for the very large contributions. A defined benefit plan is going to work great for you if you want to do, again, $100,000, to $300,000-$400,000 into a plan. That's where a cash balance plan structure will make a lot of sense. If you only want to get 30, 40, 50 grand in, usually a 401k will make a lot of sense. Now, Zach, specific to your question on, a defined benefit plan versus a cash balance plan, probably 80 to 90, well, probably 90% plus of the time, we do a cash balance plan. We find that they're a little bit more flexible for someone who's, 40s, 50s, 60s. There's a pay credit that we can customize. Also, they're called a hybrid plan. So an employee or person can see their specific account balance at any point in time. Okay. So it lends itself a little bit more to a better understanding on the employee side. I feel a little bit more flexible for someone who's older. Now, if you get someone who's younger, maybe in their early 30s, a DB plan or traditional defined benefit plan can often allow for a lower interest rate, which can sometimes lead to a higher contribution in the early days. So, it can make sense for someone who's a little bit younger to do more of a traditional DB plan. But I think for most people, the cash balance plan is going to make a lot of sense. Again, most of our clients are in their 40s and 50s. The cash balance plan structure allows for that hybrid approach so people can take a look at their actual account balances. So, we tend to not get in a lot of the nuances or a lot of the differences between plans because, frankly, we're not actuaries, but we can run both scenarios for clients to see what's going to make sense. It's just we find that the vast majority of situations, a cash balance plan is going to make a lot of sense. And again, because a cash balance plan is in the same defined benefit plan family, really the overall limits and all that are going to be the same thing. So it's not really important for most clients to understand the true distinction between that. But I think when you look at the context of what actually a cash balance plan is, we typically speak to clients from an overall kind of defined benefit plan versus a defined contribution plan, because they're very much used to the defined contribution plan, be it the SEP, the 401ks, and the defined benefit plan is a very unique structure. So I think that's really the important context for people to understand.
Right.
Maybe you can give me your context or what you see with clients.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, sometimes we'll just get a general confusion because sometimes, I mean, I'll even use the term interchangeably between a cash balance plan and a defined benefit plan to where kind of one and the same. So the differences between the traditional and the cash balance are very nuanced to where, bottom line, we just say the cash balance plan just gives clients a lot more flexibility.
Yeah, I agree. And I do use them interchangeably. If someone comes to me and says, I want a defined benefit plan, then I speak of defined benefit plans. If someone says, I want a cash balance plan, we talk about cash balance plans. Again, we try not to get in those distinctions, even though we can run both scenarios and see what makes most sense for you. But I agree, it's a little bit more trying to understanding the differences between a defined benefit plan structure and a defined contribution structure. So
Exactly.
hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that wraps it up. Thank you.